Madam Secretary, please start the meeting.
The meeting is now being recorded.
Thank you. I would like to call the regular meeting of October 23rd, 2023 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Benninger,
Present.
Commissioner Escamilla, Commissioner Leo,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner Wu,
Here.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Here.
Chair Pham.
Here.
Chair quorum has been reached at 5:35.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphone on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphone about 4 inches away from you. Members of the public may attend Planning Commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I now invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate in the meetings.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.santa-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and to YouTube at www.youtube.com. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom, enter meeting ID number 841-8842-5391. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 841-8842-5391. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press 9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you are called upon, you may press 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will alert you when your time is up.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Escamilla just joined us. Moving on to public comments on non-agenda or non-public hearing items. Madam Secretary, does anyone wish to speak on any non-public hearing items?
If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please select the hand icon to unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Chair, we have a speaker, David Mackler.
Speaker, please.
Okay.
So,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Tell me when I can start.
you can start.
Okay. I'm a retired architect and I live 2 blocks from related Bristol proposed site. I'm concerned regarding the extreme density proposed in the city plan as well as the Bristol related and Segerson projects. They're heading our way like a freight train. The density allowed is way too extreme. Just the impact on traffic alone on our streets will create a nightmare of gridlock in the surrounding areas forever, such as I experienced when I lived in West LA and moved here to escape from. Our streets are already at capacity and Band-Aids such as lights and signage will do nothing to address this total gridlock. The traffic study methodology is a loophole provided by the state that does not address the actual surcharge in traffic around related Bristol. Even city staff has conceded to me that the traffic is unmitigable. Please correct me if I'm in error. However, after wading through thousands of pages in the city plan and related Bristol environmental impact report, I cannot find any scientific nor rational basis for the proposed density, nor science and metrics-based study of the existing conditions and capacity of the resources and infrastructure serving the site. I see no utility study metrics regarding capacities and abilities to address the demands of this dramatically increased population. Yet Edison continues to warn us of increased brownouts. We recently survived a severe water and the recent rains may have blinded us to the real likelihood of the future shortages. How will 15,000 additional people in this 2-block area
David, I don't
contribute
introduce
to that
David. You're breaking.
surcharge of the existing site itself? Which, pardon me? Yes? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I think our connection or your connection is breaking up. You have about a minute left. Would you like to still continue?
Okay, as a realist, I understand these sites, including Segerstrom Village, are underdeveloped, and there's extensive financial and economic pressure for development, and the attraction to the city of extensive revenue is difficult to miss. However, I suggest that the rational, reasonable, and science-based planning is integrated in this process immediately. Allowing the author of the EIR to receive and answer the public's questions is like putting a fox in charge of the hen house. I suggest that Initiative 2 buried deep within the EIR be the starting point and the density decrease substantially further from that baseline. As our leaders, we ask you to please lead us forward into a prosperous and well-planned and thoroughly studied future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other?
We don't have any other speakers.
Thank you. Before we move on to the consent counter item, Ali, do you like to make an announcement?
Thank you, Chair. October is National Community Planning Month, and so our Public Information Officer, Paul Eakins, is taking photos of the planning commissioners in action this evening. So look your best, and you might be published in a future publication.
Thank you, Ali. Now everyone act natural. Move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve item A, minutes from October 9th, 2023, and item B, excused absences?
I move.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner Benninger. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Yes.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Moving on to the business calendar. I will now review the process of the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions from the commission. The public hearing will then be open. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will then be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will then be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public, limited to 5 minutes. Public hearing will then be closed. Discussion will return to the commission with formal action taken to approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address, which is voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please note, decisions on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individual or party. Recommendations on this item will be forwarded to the City Council at a later date for final determination. This is the time and place for a public hearing. For the public hearing on item number 1, conditional use permit number 2023-21 for the property located at 3601 West Flower Avenue, units 100 and 200 located within the professional zoning district. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to these items? Seeing none, Fernanda Arias will now provide a brief presentation. Fernanda.
Thank you, Chair.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. For discussion tonight, we have conditional use permit number 2023-21 at 3601 West Sunflower Avenue, units 100 and 200. Ultimate is requesting approval of CUP number 2023-21 to allow the establishment of a nonprofit and government-funded medical and dental office. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2023-21 as conditioned. The site has a general plan land use designation of professional and administrative office and is located within the professional zoning district. The surrounding land uses are private trade school and offices to the north, offices to the east, private college in the city of Costa Mesa to the south, and healthcare services in the city of Costa Mesa to the west. The lot size is 4.78 acres. The site is developed with the existing site is developed with a two-story building that is 52,000 square feet. Each floor is approximately 26,000 square feet in size. On February 17th of 2021, Ultimate Medical Offices were issued a certificate of occupancy for the first floor or unit 100. At the time of approval, there was no need for a conditional use permit approval. Then on December 20th of 2022, and then again on February of 2023, Santa Ana Municipal Code Section 41-313.5 was amended to require medical offices operated by government subsidized or not-for-profit or philanthropic entities to obtain a CUP prior to operating. On July 11, 2023, the applicant submitted a development project review application to change the use of an existing second floor to a medical office and pediatric dental office operated by Ultimate. This is a photo of the site as it appears today. This slide illustrates the site plan that was provided by the applicant. There are two access points for the site. One is along Sunflower and the other one is along Harbor. The site entry points are provided through private streets to the north and east side of the site. I can point them here and on this side. The patient pickup and drop off will be directly to the north of the existing building, which is located here. This will help avoid traffic queuing spilling onto public streets. The building has several points of entry. The main entry for the first floor is to the north of the building. The main entrance to the second floor will be located to the east of the building through a lobby that has stairs and elevators to the second floor. Lastly, the site contains 359 parking spaces, which exceeds the required parking by 99 spaces. This slide illustrates the proposed floor plan for the second floor. The construction will be conducted in phases. Phase 1 is the section marked with the red dashed line. The interior tenant improvements consist of the construction of the reception and lobby area, patient rooms, staff offices, staff conference rooms, staff break rooms, patient and staff restrooms, closets, storage rooms, and lab rooms. And then phase 2 is the section in the green dash lines. And this section will be completed at a future date. The construction will include a medical office with patient exam rooms, staff offices, staff break rooms, x-ray rooms, storage rooms, and patient and staff restrooms. There are no exterior changes proposed with the project. For additional context, this slide illustrates the floor plan for the first floor, which is existing and has an active certificate of occupancy. This is not part of the project being reviewed today. This is existing. Conditional use permit for the proposed use is to ensure that there are no detrimental effects on the adjacent or neighborhood land uses or the overall community, such as land use compatibility, hours of operations, vehicle circulation, and on-site traffic, parking, and noise. The proposed project will introduce an additional 20 to 25 medical staff members that will result in a rise of patient volume, pickup and drop-off services, and on-site traffic due to the increased activity. The site's layout and ample parking will mitigate the potential impacts on neighboring properties. The project is consistent with the goals and objectives of the land use element of the general plan. In accordance with California Environmental Quality Act and guidelines, the project is categorically exempt from further review pursuant to section 15301 or class 1 of existing facilities. Notice of exemption, environmental review number 2023-93 will be filed for this project, and there is no fiscal impact associated with this action. Staff is recommending to adopt the resolution approving conditional use permit number 2023-21 as conditioned. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Fernanda. Bring it back to the commission. Does any of the commissions would like to have questions or comments for Fernanda? Commissioner Benninger?
I don't know if this is for the applicant or staff, but right now parking is very adequate over there. I live in that area. What is going to happen with all the additions? How much more traffic do you think we're going to have parking there?
The site is currently overparked, so they are required to have 260 parking spaces, and they have 359. So there will be ample parking. Also with the private streets that lead into the site, even if there was additional parking, I think it could be mitigated through the private points of entry.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, no, I think it's more than adequately parked. In fact, I think, I'm not sure if this a site that the observatory uses for overflow parking, or is that the site to the south east? And if it's not, it's totally okay. I think it's the only time I imagine there's going to be parking demand is when the observatory hosts festivals, and then there's a lot of overflow. But beyond that, I have no questions on this one other than from staff's perspective. How much additional time did this CUP require from the applicant versus, if we had gone through a ministerial route?
Commissioner Escamilla, the development project application was submitted in July of this year. And so that's what, 2 months ago? So, yeah.
I couldn't tell from the drawing where the nearest bus stop is. Because I know that while they have members that will drive, plenty of people use their services by bus. Is there
Yeah.
is there a bus stop nearby? Just
I believe there's a bus stop on Sunflower, right to the south of the property. I can point it out. I believe it's on this area.
Just knowing the clientele, I'm just wondering if there's a bus stop nearby. So, because if not, I know Altimed will probably get a van and pick up their patients. But if there's a bus stop, it's helpful for them from a business perspective.
Yeah, there's a bus stop, but they also offer shuttle, but they have a loading area, so it's under
Okay.
control.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Will?
For staff question, I do have more for the operations side with the applicant. The site is owner occupied, right? By Altimed.
Correct. They currently occupy the first floor.
So prior to this, that business complex is not fully occupied, right? And what we're doing is we're upgrading their property so that they could change from a LLE PACE program to include more children and dental services, right?
Correct.
Okay, so in that expansion, did you review with them all the fire standards that you would need in changing from just a first floor operation to second floor to ensure that there's sufficient staircase, escape routes and, and children's safety and all that?
Yeah, so they are currently in the development project review process, and they are being reviewed by building, who would be the agency in charge of making sure the building is structurally sound and that it's safe for patients.
So in their plan and in their review process, they are taking into consideration transitioning from an elderly to a more full health facility, right?
Well, they're two separate suites.
Right.
So the first floor was, they went through tenant improvements in 2021. And this one is going through improvements and it has a separate entrance. So it's kind of separate, but operated by the same ultimate.
So again, just going over the application, this is a Medicare or Medicaid population that they serve, which is like many of our health needs in our city, right?
Right.
Okay, and that's all I have. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, I have a question on the process. So I noticed in the staff report said that this application went through an at-risk plan check process. Just wondering what that means.
Yeah, thank you. So the normal process is to go through a development project review, and it gets reviewed by planning, public works, building, and other city agencies, OCFA as well, Orange County Fire Authority. And after that, it goes through the entitlement process, which is the conditional use permit. After the conditional use permit, normally the application goes through plan check with building. However, in this case, because the timeline was a little rushed for the applicant, they decided to submit an early start plan check, which means that they submitted plan checks. They submitted the project to plan check for building prior to obtaining entitlements. And normally you obtain the entitlements before. But they did it at risk, and that's why that was included in the staff report.
Okay, thank you for that context. And then aside from that, just for staff, I really appreciate that in the staff report, you really went into detail with all of the ways in which it's consistent with our general plan. So I think it's really helpful for us to see. I think it's very easy to think of the direct benefit that it will have to its patients, but it's great to see the benefit that it will have to not just the community being served, but to our city as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
No questions.
Just for my clarification, there's no emergency vehicles being added onto the site, right? This is more of a clinical setting.
Yeah, this is more of a medical office and dental office. No ambulances are proposed at the time, and no emergencies.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, no further questions for me. I'll open up the hearing to the public. Does the commissioner have any comments? Well, would the applicant like to approach?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Luz Maria Chavez, Vice President of Facilities with Ultimate Health Services. Thank you very much for hearing our project today. Ultimate has been in the community of Santa Ana for over, I want to say close to 15 years. We have facilities at 1400 North Main Street, where we have medical and dental services, at 2720 South Bristol Avenue, which we have a 2-story facility there for medical services. We're recently looking at reopening our Broadway facility at 1515 Broadway, where Kano Health currently just closed their location. So that's a location we've been talking to Kano to once again reopen it as medical services as well. And our Sunflower site, which we purchased back in 2020, this was the old site of the Art Institute of California. So that's why it has more than sufficient parking for medical services. And as you mentioned about the observatory, on weekends, they do use that parking lot for overflow, which our facilities are closed. But we are a good neighbor and we allow them to use the facility. I think they use it for employee parking. Our proposed, as you thought about, are at risk. When we purchased the building and we built out our first floor in 2021, there was no need for a conditional use permit. We knew that medical services were allowed by zone. So we decided to develop our second floor, prepared our plans, ready for plan check submittal. When we went first to planning, we were told, wait, there's now a need for a conditional use permit. So unfortunately, yes, that has caused us about a 4-month delay. So we had to do at risk. The reason for the second floor pediatric dentistry, we acquired Healthy Smile Kids out of Garden Grove, which will be the practice that we're going to grow here in Santa Ana. They provide a lot of services for young children, also work alongside with CHOC, with their at need kids with high risk. So we will be servicing that population, but their lease expired in December of this year. So our original goal was to try to open by December. So now we've extended their Garden Grove lease. We're on a month-to-month there to allow us to be able to commence and construct this facility. So that was the reason for the at-risk. Any questions? I think you might have had some questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wu.
Yes, my operational question is that in your new plan and renovation, did you anticipate your growth? And will you have sufficient room to operate?
Yes. So our current facility in Garden Grove is about half of the size of this facility. So we will be growing into this new facility that we'll be building out. I think we're in about 5,000 square feet. This is about 16,000 square feet. So our goal is to grow here and be able to serve the pediatric patients in the city of Santa Ana.
And your operation won't affect the pastrami place there, right?
No, it won't. We'll make sure it won't.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Ramos. Go ahead.
No question, just thank you for the work that you're doing and for looking to expand your services. And we know there's a lot, I know there's a lot of need in Santana, and growing up, I benefited from these type of services. So just thank you for the work that you're doing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure.
No comments.
Commissioner Benninger.
Yes, I'd like to comment. I support this project. I live in the area. I see the good work you do for the neighborhoods, and I want to thank you for it. I've seen your COVID shots. I've seen food giveaways, and I just want to thank you for what you do for the city.
Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, thank you for the services and also the what I would say is the more efficient use of space by allowing overflow parking there. So both being a good neighbor and being a good steward of the healthcare for our residents. So thank you.
Commissioner.
I had a question about, I raised this many times in other projects. The telecommunication services that are provided at the site, you provide some telehealth visits. I
We
assume.
do. Our Ultimate Now program.
Okay, so the question is, when you bought the building, what, did you have to upgrade the systems that were there? Or was there enough wires and all the other stuff necessary and the speed you needed to provide the telehealth? Because we are an older city.
Mhm.
So some of these places we don't have that capability. So I'm wondering, I assume your service provider is probably Spectrum, or I don't know who it is, AT&T, whoever it is. Did they have to install new stuff for you to be able to provide the telehealth at the right speed and all that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So and pretty much at all of our facilities, because we do offer telehealth services, we actually have two services. We'll do AT&T and we have a backup, which will be Spectrum. And it depends on who's in the area. It could be Spectrum or Frontier. Because of that backup, if one goes down, this way we're still providing the service with a backup service. So we actually are doing two service providers into our IT service.
Thank you for.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to approve conditional use permit number 2023-21 for property located at 3106 West Sunflower Avenue, units 100 and 200.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu, a second by Commissioner Ramos. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Yes.
Commissioner Scarmilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is the time and place for general plan amendment number 2023 one amendment application number 2023 one abandonment number 2023 3 and public facility naming number 2023 one for the Standard and McFadden Public Park located on 1117 South Standard Street, Standard Avenue, located within the multi-family residential zoning district. Before we begin, do any of the commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regards to this item? Seeing none, Jerry will now provide a brief presentation. Jerry.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This next item is a collaboration between Parks, Recreation, and Community Services, Planning and Building, and the Public Works agencies. The following actions are being requested tonight. Adoption of a resolution approving public facilities naming number 2023-01. Adoption of a resolution finding abandonment number 2023-03 consistent with the general plan. Recommendation to the City Council of adoption of a resolution approving general plan amendment number 2023-01 and recommendation to the City Council for adoption of an ordinance approving amendment application number 2023-01, which are all associated with the approved Standard McFadden Park located at 1117 South Standard Avenue in Council Ward number 6. I will be providing a quick presentation on these matters and will be deferring questions to the corresponding agencies afterwards. This is an aerial view of the park site, which is located at the northeast corner of Standard Avenue and McFadden Avenue. Standard Avenue is located to the west of the site, which runs north and south, and McFadden is located to the south of the site, which runs east to west. The current general plan land use designation of the property or a portion of the property is actually split between open space and low density residential. And the current zoning of the property is multifamily and residential. As part of these actions, staff is requesting that the general plan and zoning of the property site be changed for consistency purposes to open space. The property is surrounded by apartments to the north, east, and commercial uses to the south and west. And it is approximately 0.7 acres in size. Just a quick background on the project itself. In 2017, the property was actually deeded to the city for the purposes of developing a public park. In 2019, the city submitted a grant application to the statewide park development and community revitalization program and was awarded approximately $3.6 million for the construction of the park. In 2021, the city entered into agreement with David Evans and Associates to provide the design and construction support services for the park. And recently in September of this year, council awarded a construction contract to Legion Contractors in the amount of approximately $3.3 million for the construction and the completion of the park. The park is estimated to be completed by winter of 2024. This is a site photo of the current conditions of the site facing Standard Avenue. And since 2016, that's when the apartments the site was first developed with apartments. Those apartments were actually demolished. And since then, the park site has been utilized as playing fields and mostly kind of soccer fields for the last couple of years. This is a conceptual site plan of the park that was approved by council. Once completed, the park will feature a skate park to the southwest corner of the site, a multi-purpose basketball court, a playground and fitness area to the north of the site, site furnishings such as lighting, trash cans, and benches, decorative fencing around the perimeter, as well as new landscaping. Now moving on to one of the actions being requested today, which is the public facilities naming. From June 22 to July 14 of this year, the Parks and Recreation and Community Services Agency crowdsourced suggestions for the community to assist in naming the park. Over 200 suggestions were received that met the Santa Ana's criteria for naming a public park. Section 33-6 of the Santa Ana Municipal Code requires that the naming of the park meet one of the following criteria: a name which serves to identify the location of the subject by reference to distinct geographic, environmental, or development features in the immediate area. 2, a name which references the history of the subject site or its immediate area. 3, a name which identifies a person, a family, which made an extraordinary donation of land or funds to promote the construction or improvement of the subject public facility, or a name which recognizes a person, a family who made a distinct significant contribution to the well-being of the city, including past mayors, council members, board and commission members, officers, or employees of the city, but not anyone who currently holds such position. On July 27 of this year, the Parks and Recreation and Community Services Commission, by a vote of 4-1, recommended the park to be named after a prior employee of the city, Gerardo Moet, who served in many capacities and was last served as the city acting city manager for the city, and who passed away recently this year. Now moving on to one of the other actions being requested tonight, which is the abandonment of an existing alley. As part of the future construction of the park, a portion of the southerly end of the alley between Wakeham Avenue to the north and McFadden Avenue to the south will be abandoned and realigned approximately 20 feet to the east. It's being abandoned from a practical standpoint, but it's being shifted to the easterly part of the park side. And the commission is required to make a finding of consistency for this particular abandonment, and that is per state law. So as mentioned, this is an exhibit showing the existing alley, which is kind of in darker shaded gray. And then the one with the diagonal striping indicates the realignment of the alley. So again, it's kind of an abandonment, but also kind of a realignment. So the dedicated access will kind of remain intact. It's just being shifted to the eastern part of the park. And then moving on now to the general plan amendment being requested. As indicated, the majority of the actual site itself was changed in terms of land use designations when the city adopted comprehensive general plan update last year. Unfortunately, a segment of the park site was not changed. So at this time, staff is recommending that the plan commission recommend that the council also adopt a general plan amendment to ensure the entire site is consistent with the open space designation. And then lastly, the other item being requested here is a zone change. The property is currently zoned R3, which is multifamily residence. And what we are requesting is that it be changed to open space to ensure consistency throughout the entire documents of the city. And then in terms of general plan consistency, these various actions are consistent with many general plan goals and policies. Policy 1.5, the community element encourages the development and use of multiple municipal buildings, indoor facilities, sports facilities, and outdoor spaces for recreation that serve the residents throughout the city, with priority given to areas that are underserved and within environmental justice area boundaries. This is a location that is identified to be in an EJ sensitive environment neighborhood. Policy 1.2 of the open space element encourages the comprehensive and integrated network of parks, recreation facilities, trails, and open space that is diverse with a variety of active and passive recreation opportunities. The subject park will add to the city's park network and will provide both active and passive recreation opportunities to the surrounding community. And lastly, policy 1.5 of the open space element encourages a mix of community, neighborhood, and special use parks, along with green corridors, natural areas, and landscape areas to meet the community needs for green space, recreation space, social space, and trail connectivity. The subject park will increase the city's parkland and will contribute to achieving the 3 acres per 1,000 residents of open space or parkland. With that, in terms of the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines, the project is within the scope of the 2022 General Plan Environmental Impact Report that was prepared, and it's also further examined pursuant to Section 15304, Class 4 of the CEQA guidelines. As such, a notice of determination will be prepared for this project and filed with the county. There are no fiscal impacts associated with this action. With that, staff recommends adoption of a resolution approving public facilities naming number 2023-01, adoption of a resolution finding abandonment number 2023-03 consistent with the general plan, and the recommendation to the city council for adoption of a resolution approving general plan amendment number 2023-01. And lastly, recommendation to the city council, the adoption of an ordinance approving amendment number 2023-01. That concludes staff's presentation. As I mentioned earlier, this is a multi-agency collaboration. I'm here to answer any planning questions. If you have any other questions for the remaining agencies, they're also here in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Jerry. And to confirm, so that we're all on the same page, the design of the park is not up for discussion tonight.
That is correct, Chairman.
Commissioner Benninger, do you have a question?
Yes,
for
one of
Jerry?
the first things that strike me is the apartments and the parking. Have the tenants of the parking, I mean, the apartments been aware that they're going to lose a whole lot of parking spaces?
Thank you, Commissioner Benninger. I will defer this question to our Park Services department. My understanding is that they hosted various community meetings throughout the past couple of years, and there has been discussions with regards to parking. But I'll defer that question to Park Services Division.
Okay, then I'm going to ask my second question because it's coming up. The lighting in the park, I see no pinpoints of any lighting in the park. And you mentioned it in your presentation. Where would that lighting be and how strong will it be?
Commissioner Manager, Susie from Parks Services should be able to answer that question as well. But my understanding is that they're still kind of in the design phase. As part of that process, they are required to submit a photometric analysis. So that at that time, they will be able to identify the exact location of the street lighting as well as their any impacts to the neighboring properties.
Oh, good evening. I'll answer your question first about the park
Parking.
lighting. And good evening, everyone. I'm Susie Furjanic from the Park Services Division of Public Works. Yeah, the lighting is going to be throughout the park. Our goal is 1 foot candle throughout. So there is walkway lighting, lighting around the playground, and then there is lighting around the basketball court and the skate park. So it will be fully lit with a minimum of 1 foot candle throughout. With regards to the parking, this project has been going on for a number of years now, and it has passed through a number of administrations' hands. I know there were 2 rounds of outreach that have already been done. There were the 5 meetings that were held in 2019, and I believe there was another meeting in 2021, and there was a process that was followed. I believe there were 5 meetings. There were a number of conversations with the neighborhood to collect input on, what park features they wanted. From what we can glean, there were discussions about the parking situation. We plan to have a 3rd outreach meeting with the community on November the 15th, now that this is closer to happening. And because it's closer to happening, we are taking a closer look at how this park is going to operate, be maintained, be kept secure. And we have noted some problems with the parking that is out there right now. And there has been some input brought to us from the community about some of the unsavory activity that goes on out there, activity that we don't necessarily want next to a park. And in the spirit of providing more open space and providing a safe and secure environment for the community to not be afraid to come out and use, consideration was given to shifting that alley and absorbing that city-owned park space into the park to make for a bigger park and give us the ability to draw a hard line between the park and the alley and secure it. We had community members brought up to us recently that there's a 7-Eleven and some mini markets across the street. There's a lot of drinking that occurs and carries over into the alley, makes it hard to manage that, even with security. We do not see that we have any contractual obligations to provide that parking to the apartment buildings. We are working internally to reach out and get a hold of those property owners so that we can have a conversation with them, have conversation with the tenants there, talking to traffic to find out if there are alternatives that we can offer as a result. So conversation is still going on. So yes, there has been some conversation in the past with the community. There's going to need to be more.
So you're asking approval before you have this conversation with the apartment owners?
Well, I guess like I said, this project has been through a number of administrations. It appears that there was some conversation surrounding the parking in the past. Regarding the street vacation, it doesn't appear that that conversation has been had, but that is what we are intending to do. But as I said, it's in the spirit of delivering a secure park site.
I'm fully supportive of parks in the city. We've been lacking of them since I moved here. And so I think you've answered my question on it. The park will be closed at 10 o'clock like the other parks in the city.
Yes.
Is there going to be a fence around it? So when you close it, it's truly closed?
Yes, and I mean, that's part of why we're doing what we're doing. Like I said, we're going to be drawing a hard line around it. The fence separating the alley from the park is going to be part masonry, part wrought iron. And the fence to the north will be a solid masonry wall. So it will be very secure all the way around.
Although I've had my run-ins with the Gerardo, especially with the Thornton Park and the pump where they're involved in our pond, I truly support naming it after him. He was our park director for a number of years on it and did contribute to the city. So I support that. Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, I guess I'll just take this item by item. So the first one on the naming of the park, support Gerardo Moet. Also worked with him when I was here at the city. Very much interested in mentoring the next generation. So for good or for ill, anything that I do, you can also blame on Gerardo if you'd like. So I would support the naming of the park there. On the vacating of the park, do we just have a count as to how many spaces are being removed? I know we're not going to get into the design, but I just want to know on the vacating portion what the number is.
I believe there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 25.
Okay, and I just say that just because I think that the solution that we need here is probably a little bit more holistic to the overall kind of mini street area, which is at a certain point, the city's going to need to figure out how we can assist property owners with doing stacked parking, whether that means that the city buys like 1,000 of them and gives them out at a discount or, at that bulk rate. Because that's essentially really the only solution that we're going to need here in this particular area, as well as maybe kind of breaking up some of the you'd say nefarious activity that you have, because basically it's a no man's land out there when you go, and it's very permeable, and you see this in a lot of other spaces where you have common spaces that no one has real responsibility for. But if you're able to kind of break it up a little bit and make sure that folks have a sense of ownership between the various stalls and various locations, it might make for a better built environment out there. So that's really more planning, I think, for the future. But it will maybe require that we take a look at our code around I think it's publicly visible mechanical equipment is really, I think, the stumbling block that we have as far as a code update. So this is really kind of just the code update we probably need to address there. And then as far as the changing of the application or changing of the underlying general plan, totally makes sense. And then it gets fully consistent. So super supportive there. And I know that this is a tricky site to work with. And like you said, many administrations, a lot of conversations, and anything we can do to kind of move it forward, I think is the direction that I would like to see us go tonight. So those are the comments that I have.
Commissioner Leo.
I'm gonna date myself. I was here when we redid everything and it became Cornerstone Village, no longer Minnie Street. So that's quite some time ago. I'm supportive of all the actions, but the abandonment, I can't support the abandonment because we don't have a resolution to the parking. Those tenants have been parking there for a while. We clearly have a lot of work to do on that piece of it. Everything else is pro forma. And we need to engage the residents because there are people that rely upon that parking. Until we have a solution, how can we abandon the street? I mean, I understand the design and everything, but when I look, and could you go back to the picture where the cars are? There's more than 20 spots. There's more than 20 cars. So you're talking about tenants who pay rent. These apartments are probably overcrowded. People barely getting by, and we're going to eliminate their only parking spot. So I can't support the abandonment, but everything else, move it on down the road. I can't support the abandonment until we figure this thing out. And Commissioner Escamilla is correct. We have to find a solution for because these are, for lack of a better word, these are working class families. They need one spot. And if they have no spot, I don't know where they go into another neighborhood and they park their car. So this is going to happen everywhere in the city. So we got to figure this one out. So I'm supportive of everything else but that.
Commissioner Will.
For decades, we have disinvested in this neighborhood. I'm grateful to see that we're finally moving forward to providing open space for the resident in a densely populated neighborhood. It is economically marginalized. Yes, there is a lot of issues in creating open space there. And there is a parking problem. And my question was also going to be about the abandonment. Will it be secure from the rest of the park? And you said there was going to be a fence, right? And does that mean, and that would protect the park users from traffic going up and down the alley, right? So the only unresolved thing is something regarding the tenants that is not owned by the apartments that are using for parking. They're just parking there.
That is correct. That is city-owned property, and we do not have any contractual obligations.
So there
to
is
provide it.
parking on the streets around the park, right?
I'm sorry?
Around the park, on the street, there would be parking.
There's no parking.
Oh,
on the
can't
side.
park there. There's not enough. Okay. Okay, and then you got a problem, but hope you resolve. Yeah.
It's an obvious problem.
But I will say this, because there is interagency, interdepartmental working on this, hopefully you'll find a solution. Maybe you need to drag OCTA in it, and have a parking area and people kind of golf cart over to the park or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, a couple things here, if I may. This is a neighborhood park.
Yeah.
Neighborhood parks are intended to be within a 5 to 10 minute walk. So it's parking, this park does not need parking for park purposes. I think the issue at hand is the people that are currently parking the alley has been non-monitored. And so people have been using it as an overflow parking lot for their living units.
I think we should focus on that. It is a neighborhood park. The skate park will be a good use for the kids in the neighborhood because I know that when they embrace skating, they have a tendency to stay away from other types of activity. Will you have programming there too, in addition to the recreation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm in favor of moving forward as a neighborhood park to provide resources with people within the walking distance there. So wherever they're parking right now, you probably have ways of finding parking. You know, I don't see the problem. Well, I do see a problem, but I think we can move forward with it. And it seems like the resolution, if I'm correct, staff, just realign the general planning and all the little due diligence detail, right? And once we do that, we don't have any problem with consistency, right?
That's correct, Commissioner Wu. So
Okay.
the matter before you is finding that the abandonment is consistent with the general plan. Council has the ultimate decision on the actual abandonment of the alley.
Okay, so it's just not wrestling on one issue there, it's realigning it to be consistent first, right? So that we can move forward. If there's
That's
some
correct.
other issues that come up with later, we could deal with it as well, right?
That's correct, Commissioner Wu.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, thank you. I'm generally supportive, so very familiar with this area. I know it's been used for a park for many years before 2016, before there was any park-like amenities. So I'm really happy that this is moving forward. Very supportive of the park being named after Gerardo Moe. I worked very closely with him on Mariposa Park. So happy to see some of the similar elements as well. The only part where I have a concern is with the abandonment. So I support the abandonment. My concern is that the residents and tenants are as informed on this before tonight's meeting. So I know that there's going to be a future meeting, but my concern is that that future meeting with the tenants there is happening after this vote. So because of that, I have a lot of concerns with that. And I know that the city has no contractual obligation. And I also understand that it's necessary to make the park a bit larger and provide everything that's included in the design. But I wish that residents would have been notified prior so that they could have been here to express any concerns or support. And I do think that the tenants will be at the end supportive, but it's really important to me that there are very intentional engagement processes. So that's the part that I'm just very concerned with. And I would also encourage the city to explore any like possibilities with the commercial parking across the street. So Sater Brothers has a very large parking lot. I'm not sure what it looks like overnight. I haven't driven by in a while, but maybe there's a potential for some sort of, I don't know, some sort of a partnership there. But yes, supportive of everything, just with the abandonment piece, I just wish that the community had been made aware prior to tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Vice Chair?
I echo Commissioner Leo's and Commissioner Ramos's remarks. Parking is so essential in this city, and that's what we don't have. And I think removing these parking spaces from, granted, I understand that there's no contractual obligation to provide this parking, but it just shows that there's like, what's the word? Like, there's more engagement, because I want to say that's probably what the missing piece. Probably the neighborhood doesn't understand that they'll be losing these parking spaces. So I'm wondering how communication is even going about. I know that it's been posted in the register and things like that, but we also have to be aware that a lot of this, the folks in these communities don't frequent the paper and things like that. So more neighborhood engagement is very much needed. I do appreciate the park though. I had always wondered what was going to happen with that corner lot. Like, it was just always empty. I'm happy people were using it as a park because they saw the potential in it. So, and I do like the design. If I can only make a slight request of more trash cans just to keep the park as clean as possible when it's already up and running, but the parking. that's probably my biggest issue.
Chair Pham, if I may. I would just like to remind the commission that the action on the abandonment, although you guys have brought up some great concerns regarding the parking and the notice, those are legitimate concerns and I'm happy you guys brought them. But the action before you today is just to whether the abandonment is consistent with the general plan. So in if you guys were to take action in denying, then you would have to make findings consistent on why it's not consistent with the general plan. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in general, I'm very supportive of the park. I understand that parking is a sensitive issue, but I've seen many times the public has approached the commission saying that we lack open space. And this commission has approved projects that increase the density of a certain plot, increase, reduce parking. And so I don't think it's necessary that we should penalize this park for issues that need to be resolved in a greater extent elsewhere. So I'm fully in support of the abandonment, the proposal for the park, and everything else that needs to be done to get the project going. Other than that, I'll open the hearing up to the public. Well, it looks like we've already discussed this inside, but all right. Right. Have you filled out the form?
Well, pretty much
They need to fill out can you please fill out a form? You haven't opened you have to open.
There's a form that you need to fill out.
do that.
He can do it after, but you gotta.
Okay. Well, the public hearing is now open, but before you speak, can you fill out the form and hand it to our secretary?
Right now?
Yes, please. And if the gentleman in the back, if you want to speak, please fill out the form before this gentleman as well. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication or any items? Or is there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for him to fill out the card, I have a question for the city attorney.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wu.
Just to reiterate what the staff recommendation is, the recommendation is in 4 parts, right? First part is to adopt a resolution for the naming of the public facility, right?
Correct.
The second part is the abandonment issue. Number 3, recommend that the city council adopt a resolution approving the general plan amendment to allow for this open space to be a park, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then that requires the resolution requires an ordinance approving that amendment, right?
That is correct as well.
Okay, so in its entirety though, do we have to look at it as 4 motions or can it be separately voted on? Well, it's not that I want it, I just want to ask. Oh, it's up to us. Okay, thank you.
You could separate the items, or you can do it all as one motion if you would spread together. But of course, it could also be sub motions where you would
I'm
take
debating
certain
the
items.
question. Thank you.
Sure, Pam, can I make a public hearing request? Can we just state to the public that we can also take comments in Spanish? And that city staff will translate those comments for us and for the record. Do you want to say it in Spanish or do you need help?
I was gonna ask someone that is bilingual.
Can I say that? I know in the issue, in the past, there's been an issue with me translating, and it's been said that city staff should do it.
Commissioner Ramos, you're welcome to make the announcement and then we'll have staff provide the translation.
Great, thank you. Nada más queremos avisar que también podemos tomar comentarios públicos en español si gustan. Y aquí el personal de la ciudad va a traducir esos comentarios a inglés para toda la mesa y también para el récord público. Entonces, si hay alguien que quiera dar comentario en español, los invitamos a pasar al frente y llenar una tarjeta. Gracias.
Chair, we have Santiago on Zoom and he would like to comment. Santiago, please unmute yourself. Santiago, can you hear us?
Maybe we say it in Spanish.
Santiago nos escucha, puede dar su comentario.
Is there other callers?
No, we only had
Okay.
him.
So we'll move on to the in-person comments. Mr. Carmen Sanchez, please approach.
Hello, my name is German. Just like a concerned citizen, I guess. Pretty much I vote against, well, keeping the parking or suggesting of like just reducing the 50% and moving the road more to the left-hand side of it. And just keeping at least half of the parking just for consideration and not like just a complete slap in the face, to be honest, because it's a straight alleyway. Like, come on, I could see it. I'm pretty sure you guys could see too. It's better to keep the parking, be considerate. Also for the overnight with the activity late at night around 2, 3 in the morning. Yes, there's a lot of drinking and a lock won't do much, but I do feel like it will bring the community a lot together. But also for the parking, like Nurse, like Stater Brothers and 7-Eleven, it's already being used. So I recommend keeping the parking. So thanks.
Thank you. Were we able to get the caller on?
Santiago, if you can unmute yourself. He can't unmute himself, I guess.
But for the caller, if you're not able to contact the commission at the moment, I suggest you submit your comment in a written form to the commissioner secretary, and then she can distribute it to the rest of the commission at a later date. Seeing that there's no other public comments, the public hearing is now closed. I will move it back to the commission once again for discussion if you think it's necessary. If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion since we seem to be agreeable on most items. And what the motion is that we agree with all the items except for the alleyway, reassigning of that. I ask that we continue that to give them a chance to talk to the neighborhood. So it's not a denial, it's just a continuance on that portion.
Is staff amicable to a continuation of all 4 items, or would you like us to?
I'll defer that question to our park services, but I do believe they have a deadline they need to accomplish meeting with the city council, but I'll refer that to Park Services Division.
Let me put it to you this way. How can we best express our frustration that the parking's going away without holding up Parks and Rec for their program? Because I think you heard from the community. I don't know what Mr. Santiago is going to say. You've heard enough of us have raised the question that the community either wasn't involved and we're going to lose too much parking. You know, I don't want people going apartment by apartment saying, oh, this is overcrowded, this one isn't. That I don't want. And that may happen if we take away the parking, because then there's going to be no parking. So I don't know how we express it loud enough that there's a parking issue. And as I was talking with Commissioner Escamilla, Mr. Penaloza is going to have a fireball on his hand if they lose that much parking. So how do we express that in a nice way to move this along, but also say, we've got a parking issue to resolve?
Thank you, Commissioner Leo. Traditionally, when matters have been presented before the Planning Commission that entail general plan amendments and amendment applications to change the zoning of a property, those are ordinances that ordinarily you don't condition, right? It's an ordinance that you're recommending to the city council For the record, as part of the motion, you can sort of make an advisory comment, or you can make a sort of just like on the record comment that will accompany that and be documented in the staff report that goes to the city council. So while this is not like a conditional use permit where you can say, I'm approving it, but I want to limit your hours to 9 PM instead of 10 PM. In this instance, the commission could consider that option. You would make a motion. You can itemize it, or you can do it as a bundle. And one way or another, the motion could be, adopt or just recommend that the city council approve the general plan amendment and the amendment application and the abandonment with comments on X, Y, and Z. And those could either be sort of advisory to the council, like, hey, council members, we've considered this, but we really urge you to consider this by the time it gets to you. Or it could also be advisory for staff to sort of look into things.
Thank you, Ali. Well, that's my
Mr. Chair,
recommendation.
I have a question,
Can I just,
clarification.
finish?
I couldn't hear the earlier part of the discussion regarding the parking. Currently, some alleys that we have in the city do not have parking. There's no parking sign. Is this alleyway one of those type of parking, has no parking currently?
I'll defer to our city engineer to answer the technicalities of it, but I think from what we've heard earlier, the parking that exists there is not anything official or formal, but please.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Could we go back to one of the aerial slides? Yeah, that's good. So and listen, I definitely appreciate everything you all are saying about the parking situation. I challenge staff with some of the very same questions on this. So first and foremost, I will say our next community outreach, and you heard Susie did say, we have done a lot of community outreach, but it is tough to reach everyone, especially those apartments. Traditionally speaking, a lot of folks don't attend a lot of the community meetings because they go to work early the next day, they go home work. Like, I don't have to explain to you all the reasons, right? I think we all understand. So we're making one last ditch effort on November 15th to get the word out. We're having one more community meeting at Davis Elementary, which is right down the street from here, and we will be blanketing specifically all the apartments here with that notice, because the intent is to begin construction on this project in January. But to this site here, on the left of the alley, that is all private property. So those are all the parcels that were a apartment before, which is now the space that's primarily utilized as a quasi park, if you will, right? To the right of that alley, there are individual slivers of parcels that the city owns, which are being utilized as parking. And as a matter of fact, all the way up this alley to Wacom, the city owns additional parcels which are being used as parking. So this is one of the very, very few alleys in the city which actually has parking on both sides of the alley. Most alleys either have parking just on one side or no parking at all.
So the clarification is that this is city property that was planned for something like what we're doing, but in the meanwhile is being used by residents in the area. And as Commissioner Ramos pointed out, and several other commissioner, the courtesy thing is the communication with people so that everyone has a chance. And as we know, all meetings don't get everyone. And making one more attempt, I don't know if we still get to the same people. Thank you for coming out and talking about your opinion on that. So what I wanted to clarify was that the city-owned property, the parking there is not designated as parking area. And that, but you didn't put up no parking signs either, right?
Commissioner, we were actually requested to start putting out some no parking signs to begin to try to address some of those illicit activities that happen there. But enforcement and all this, there are issues.
So
But-
with or
but
without
to
the
your answer,
park,
correct. Yes.
yeah, with or without the park, the drinking, whenever there's, because we approve all these conditional use permit to permit drinking to keep the residents happy, as it was once stated. We have a lot of drinking, so which we have a social problem that needs to be addressed. So we have that problem whether or not there is a park, right?
As your public works person, no comment.
Okay.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, if I can just ask one question regarding the upcoming meeting. So you said that was happening on November 16th?
November 15th.
Okay, and is that meeting before or after this abandonment item goes to the city council?
That would be before.
Okay, thank you. So, well, just to kind of reiterate then, the public would have an opportunity to be informed, provide their comments to you before you go to council, so they will also be made aware that there is a city council meeting on this issue where they can continue to voice their opinions.
That'd be correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Commissioner Benninger, I know you've already introduced a motion. I would ask if you, after hearing what Ali has presented, that you potentially in your motion remove the continuance of the abandonment. My thought is that unless we have a clear goal of why we are deferring this decision and a target that Public Works or planning can hit, it really doesn't make sense to defer this if we're gonna have the same discussion again. Right? And so my perspective is if we want to vocalize the fact that there is a lack of parking and that there's a lack of public outreach, we vocalize it through a recommendation to council. Ultimately, it's council's decision, and ultimately with that recommendation, along with the public outreach that will happen before council's decision, I think that's our best route of action. My recommendation.
I tend to agree with you. I would just make it as a comment that before it goes to council, to have the meetings with the neighborhood to discuss this. And I wouldn't take it to council without that meeting taking place. So I guess my comments will be, plus I will support moving this on to council, provided that they have the meeting with the neighborhood before that council meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Benninger and Chair Pham. As a formality, if you can close the public hearing. Thank you.
Public hearing is now closed. We have to summarize, we have a current motion by Commissioner Benninger to approve all 4 items with a recommendation to council to be advised on the parking issues that are at hand and to make sure that we have adequate public outreach that's scheduled before council meeting for that to be taking place and for the input to be afforded to council prior to their decision making. Do I have a second?
Can we state it as a courtesy to the neighborhood? Because again, the issue is city-owned property. Okay, it's not a parking area. But I don't want to make it seem like where we needed to clean this up in order to go with the motion. Because I'm content with the motion to move forward. But I am sensitive to the need to ensure that there is citizen participation.
Chair, if I may.
So it's in the wording. Ali. I'll second your motion.
Well,
Well, we got the second, but I had a question for council. So I guess in this sort of situation, when we do have something that is related to the item before us, but we have strong feelings as a commission, would this be just kind of an appropriate location to do kind of a 5th recommendation of we approve everything as is? So 1, 2, 3, 4, we are approving, because from a professional standpoint, I can't find inconsistencies with the general plan, but I do find land use considerations as a 5th item that came up during this discussion. So it would basically be 5, recommend to city council that they, that there's community outreach and some attempt to mitigate the parking loss. That would basically be an independent recommendation. So is that still within our purview to do in this particular instance, in this particular situation?
not to speak for our legal counsel, but what I'll just share is that because that's not a recommendation before you tonight that's been agendized or all that, it would not follow certain rules of order. But again, going back to the avenue that was outlined before, you can equally add weight or heft to that sentiment by including it as a friendly amendment to Commissioner Benninger's motion, because we are still waiting for a second.
No, so the second came in from Wu. Okay, if that's
Point of order.
It's the resident that wasn't able to unmute himself earlier.
What is his name?
Can we, can we reopen the public hearing?
I don't want to open up the public hearing.
Jared and Santiago.
Right. I recommend that you recommend that you submit a written communication to our planning secretary. The public hearing has now closed. And as discussed, if you review the meeting, there will be public outreach in the coming weeks. And I encourage you to voice your input then. Thank you. Right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Benninger and a second by Commissioner Wu with no amendment. Is that correct?
no amendments for me, but I believe there was so I just want to make sure we include that language to the emphasis to have the public hearing or to have some form of outreach around the parking issue.
Would the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion accept that friendly amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
That's official.
thank you. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Benninger,
Yes.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham.
Aye.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
That concludes the business calendar. Move on to staff comments. Ali, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Yeah, at this time, I'd like to take a moment to introduce a new senior planner we have with us in the planning division. Siri Champion is a senior planner with our advanced planning division. She has 15 years of experience working as an urban planner, a graduate of Macalester College. Did I say that right? McAllister, yeah, wrong syllable, where she earned a bachelor's of arts in geography and urban studies in USC, where she earned her master's in planning. Siri has gained experience both in current planning, which is like development processing, and advanced planning, and is known as a generalist who enthusiastically works on a wide range of project types. She's also a mom to a rambunctious, in her own words, 6-year-old boy, and likes to climb mountains. And she loves wearing a puffy jacket to bed and eating snacks or toast for dinner. But most importantly, beyond that biography, Siri will be the lead project manager on the comprehensive zoning code update. So she's here to provide the Planning Commission a brief update on that this evening.
Thank you for that introduction. And I'd like to say that I appreciate the opportunity to be here working for the city of Santa Ana. And thank you for your time this evening. I'm happy to report that the city council has approved a contract with MIG that happened on October 17th to work on the zoning code update. That work effort includes a comprehensive update of the zoning code, which will involve reformatting the code as a whole, as well as related maps. The program also involves development of zoning districts and development standards for 5 focus areas that you may recall were included in the adoption of the general plan update. As part of this project, we'll have extensive community engagement and are happy to be collaborating with 2 community-based organizations on that effort. The comprehensive zoning code update is planned to be an 18-month project and will conclude in early 2025. So thank you for that.
That's it from staff comments. Thank you. Thanks, Siri.
I thought you were going to present the entire code tonight.
Yeah, that's what I was looking forward to.
Can
Is
we
there
ask a
comments
general
from the
question?
commissioner? Go Commissioner Will?
You're just starting and you're getting the contractor in place, but we're a old city which has gone through a lot of changes, and this last general plan I thought was very responsive to community needs. And I think for the first time, we kind of were able to plan together. Do you see any challenges in bringing from what I would term hodgepodge to consistency, and yet we have a lot of housing stock in that's mixed up with neighborhood, with businesses and industrial use and all that? You see any challenges of bringing that all online?
I think that's a great complex question, and as a new staff person, somewhat difficult for me to answer without knowing, the political milieu.
I apologize.
But I think that, regardless of the challenges that we may see, we have a comprehensive plan for community engagement, which will need to involve all those stakeholder types, and all of those interests. And I'm looking forward to it. I think that the plan that Santa Ana has for community engagement is really quite impressive. And I'm pleased that the city has been awarded an additional grant from SCAG to do extensive community outreach, which will involve grassroots efforts by community organizations themselves. And so I think that we've got a great opportunity to address those challenges head on.
Commissioner
Well,
Ramos?
I just want to come, I'm very happy board and looking forward to doing this. And any way we can help, let us know.
All right, Commissioner Ramos?
Are these just comments on this or general comments to close off the meeting as well?
General, and if you have any comments for.
Okay, thank you. So very nice to meet you. Thank you for being here tonight. Looking forward to the work that you'll be doing. And then I also just have a general comment. So I know that right now the public comment period is open for proposal on what's going to happen to Santiago Park with the creek. So I briefly spoke to Ali about this, but that public comment period ends on November 14th. And I know Public Works is looking at it a bit, but I think there's also some general plan implications as they consider what's going to happen to like some of the trees and landscaping. And for those of you, I think everyone's been by Santiago Creek, so we know what it looks like now. So I think it's also something that we should be informed on. And if there's a chance for like a future presentation on what the city is doing, if anything, in regards to that. And if there's going to be any public comments submitted from the city, I think it would also be helpful. But I bring this up because I've been asked by some residents in Ward 3 about what the city is going to be doing, if anything.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Our city engineer escaped just in the nick of time. But I did make him aware prior, after our call last week about your and likely other commissioner colleagues' interest in this topic. So I will follow up with him and see if he's available to represent the Public Works Agency. And then, of course, planning will also review the public comment period and see if there's anything, as you suggested, that implicate the general plan.
Commissioner Skimia?
I just wanted to also thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Ramos. There will be a town hall on the item still planned for November 2nd, right across the street over with the county. So there will be a presentation from the Army Corps of Engineers. I believe it starts at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. I have to double check that.
Thank you, Commissioner Scamilla. Can you send us a flyer?
I will be sending that flyer to everybody. Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to come to the city of Santa Ana. I know we're an older city, but we want to become that young, new, modern city. So thank you so much. I thought we were having the whole presentation right now, and I was like, okay, we're about to learn about zoning. So I look forward to the future meeting that we'll have. And I want to thank staff for today's meeting.
Commissioner Benninger, additional comments?
No major comments, just a comment that I was attending a college night accidentally at Mater Dei, and my old alumni, Wayne State, was here from Detroit. And they've heard about Santa Ana. They're encouraging kids to come from Santa Ana, and the towns like to have a contingency, about 12 kids that are attending Wayne State from Santa Ana.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, just we wanted to welcome you on board. I think it's going to be a wonderful project. So thanks for taking it on, and anything that, we can do as a commission, feel free to use this as a body, use this individually, however else we could be of use to the effort. And really, at least, if you go back, I've made lots of various little comments. I probably have to summarize them all and send them to you. And, I think there's a lot of opportunities in this old code to update it and to really figure out how we can get our goals accomplished here. So welcome aboard. Big challenge though.
Yes, I would say welcome. You saw some of the chaos tonight and what you got to deal with, so welcome aboard. Ali, two questions. First of all, finally got caught up on the Orange County Business Journal, big piece on 2525 North Main. It's gonna come back. Something is gonna come back. And did I assume the neighborhood's well aware of it? What is how's this? What's the current status of 2525 North Main? I'll give you general that question.
I'll defer to our city attorney just on some recent communications that we might be just limited from making in a public setting, but go ahead.
Okay.
I had to tend to agree with Ali. It's probably that's not suitable for an open discussion
Okay.
item.
Okay. Just so you know, there was an article in the Orange County Business Journal about 2525 North Main coming back after the neighborhood voted against it. There's another developer who has the rights, and so it may come back. Can you comment on the current status of the Cabrillo project, which we approved?
No new updates. Thank you, Commissioner. No new updates from the last update that I provided at the last meeting. So the city council made a motion and unanimously voted with 2 abstentions to deny the project. And since then, nothing new has been brought formally to the city for reconsideration.
Okay. And then on the Santiago Creek project, you should all be aware that there's a state conservancy, Santiago River Conservancy, set up in state law that can receive both private and public funds. So that is something that can be done to help with whatever the residents want in the creek bed. And I've been there with the Army Corps. Not everything is fact from them. So just so you know.
Thank you and welcome. I look forward to the zoning documents. I think it'll be very interesting. Other than that, no other comments from me. Thank you, the commissioners, for your input. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Chair Pham, can I make one last question? Sorry,
Go ahead.
as Commissioner Leo was asking questions, I just wanted to ask, so I know we had a public comment today regarding Related Bristol. I'm just wondering if there's an updated timeline in case that commenter is still listening, so they're aware of when there might be another public hearing and they can speak to that a bit more.
Thank you. For anyone who's tuning in and listening, that project is still undergoing a staff review process that also entails finalizing the environmental impact report. So there are no public hearings scheduled at this time. The city maintains a routinely updated webpage for that project and all other major development projects that other cities have proudly emulated from our model. And as public hearing dates are identified, whether tentative or actually agendized, they'll be also posted to that webpage for everyone's benefit.
I have a question regarding when council reverses our decision, like the Cabrillo project, what happens next? Does it come back to us?
Ultimately, if the city council acts on a project that the planning commission had previously approved and they choose to deny the project, then the project is essentially dead. Just like the planning commission, the city council in its decision-making can deny a project, and they can deny a project with prejudice. When a project is just denied, then it's assumed that it's without prejudice, meaning that an applicant can try again. If a project is denied with prejudice, it means that even with minor modifications and stuff, like that very proposal is essentially barred from returning, that they're making that decision.
So was it the denial with prejudice or without prejudice?
So because the city council did not state with prejudice, it is assumed that it's without prejudice. Therefore, any applicant that's in that situation could propose modifications and consider a new public hearing for city council reconsideration. If the project deviates substantially from what the city council consider, then it would have to return ordinarily to the planning commission for reconsideration again.
And that was my question. Did the city council reveal any justification of why they said no?
That I would just caution against any further discussion on this item since it's not.
I'm
agendized.
sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, since we have so much interest on future planning projects, I'd like to point the commissioners to planning has a interactive map with all the major projects within your ward, respective ward, and whichever you're interested in with the case planner name listed underneath. So if you want to reach out to the specific case planner, I think I recommend you do so. Other than that, since there's no other comments, no other questions, meeting's adjourned. Our next regular meeting